Hey, everybody, we're back. Happy New Year. We've got our friend Dave Kaval here and Oakland Athletics president with our latest update on where we are with Howard Terminal and where are we? Thank you. How are you doing? Great to see you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. We had a very positive vote last week of the Planning Commission, a unanimous vote on actually certifying the environmental impact report, something that's been we've been working on for over 2 years with the city staff and consultants. So it's a big day, and I think not only is it positive they voted unanimous, but I think some of their comments about how robust and thoughtful and really well put together the EIR is really positive to hear.
What are, after this, the next steps from your perspective?
Well, City Council, it's the ball's in their court. They're going to have an opportunity here in February to certify the environmental report, to also tackle some of the port city jurisdictional arrangements, and to hopefully kick this forward so we can get a final economic deal in the spring, which is our goal. And obviously we've been working on this for almost 5 years now at Howard, and we really need to know if the public policy makers agree with our vision for the waterfront, the economic terms in which that we've proposed, and the environmental approval, which we're going through right now.
Now, also, there seems to be this little thorny issue of jurisdiction regarding the port in the city. Has that been worked out to your satisfaction?
Well, it's something that, the port and the city are going to have to figure out. I mean, we can't get to a point where we have a vote until it's solved. I think it gets back to the charter of the city of Oakland and who really has jurisdiction over the waterfront, and whether or not the port is a part of the city or an independent entity. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the answers to all those things, but I'm just hoping they can come to a workable compromise so we can actually take the project forward and get it to a binding vote.
I have to ask, as one who's been around this for 35 years, we worked out those issues long ago. Who was it that brought up that this was an issue in this context and didn't look back at what we had done before?
I'm not 100% sure. I think this is being run out of the city attorney's office. And I know obviously they want to make sure that they're managing risk appropriately. But by the same token, this is an incredible project. And, we spent almost 4 years working on it. So it's not like it's a new issue. So hopefully it can come to a positive resolution here in the next week or two, and we can get a vote.
We've had issues like that with, the airport expansion with Jack London Square. We have a lot of examples.
It's not the first time. So I think there's a precedent. Hopefully that can be used to support whatever findings they need.
And also, we talked about the EIR meeting, but with respect to the development agreement itself, before where are we with the development agreement from your perspective?
Well, we've basically commented on all the key areas and exhibits from the city. We're still waiting on their infrastructure and financing exhibit, which would include how they're going to establish the infrastructure financing district. These are important issues. They're issues that are bigger than even the A's. It's really something that needs to be determined for the entire region, and it can include the county, as people know. So I think that's the biggest outstanding item, and we're hopeful we can get that agreement at least to review as soon as possible, because the other items they've all sent us, whether it's affordable housing, community benefits, termination, non-relocation, we've commented, we've gotten it back to the city. So the city, our team worked over the holidays going through all those things, and we really need to get to the point where we can have a meeting of the minds on some of these outstanding topics.
So brass tacks, you don't have a price tag for tax increment revenue from the project right now.
We're waiting from the city on that. Yes, we're waiting. That's in the exhibit that they're going to supposedly send over. So that's something that we're going to need to put in our underwriting to determine exactly how the financing works, Zennie.
And so when do you expect to get that document?
Well, we've been waiting for some time. I'm hopeful. I know there's a lot of stakeholders on the city side that need to approve it before it's sent to us. We're hopeful in the next week here. That would be a really important milestone. And I think we would be able to better determine exactly where we are in the project and how close we are. Without that, it's a little hard to know. You're flying a little blind, Zennie.
So are they having new consultants figured out? Because Center Urban wrote a report that Century Urban, I'm sorry, wrote a report that should have been burned, with a candle and a wick. I've never seen a more awful report regarding what was supposed to be tax increment financing. Have they junked Century Urban's report then?
I really don't know. I know they have a variety of consultants, including them, and I think they have other ones as well. They have scores of outside counsel. So I think they have a team necessary to evaluate these things, and I think we're hoping that they can come to a positive resolution and get us something that we can digest.
Now, have they talked to you about, because let me get this straight. We are using an enhanced industrial financing district, right?
That is the intention. That's what we've been told. Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, every EIFD that has been done in the state of California, and Sacramento just completed theirs last year, has included a public financing authority and to form it an infrastructure financing plan. Has the city mentioned to you about either of those two objectives? And if so, when are we going to get them done?
I'm hopeful that that comes in this exhibit that I was talking about. It has been mentioned, and I think those are both important aspects to making the project a success, both from a governance perspective, as well as an understanding of how the dollars are going to be used. Because you need to have a plan for how, the tax increment that's generated is invested in specific projects, the cost of those projects, who's going to manage those projects. And so those are all things that the city really is leading, and we're here to support them. And obviously we're generating all the taxes that do it. And hopefully we can get that more in the public eye as soon as possible. I think it'd be very important for taxpayers to see that.
Aren't you concerned? Oh, let me put it this way. I would be concerned that the amount isn't enough, or it may be more than enough to cover certain wish lists on the community planning, from the community planning effort, let alone the maritime effort. I mean, suppose they come all up way with what they really should come up with is an estimate about 1.6 billion or north of that. I'm concerned that they're not going to do it right. Have you gotten any indication of what the cutoffs in terms of what will be paid for will be based on where it falls? Because Dave, to me, this is stuff, and I've said it before, we talked about sources and uses, that should have been done 2 years ago. And, all this cooks in the kitchen and stuff is just infuriating to me.
Well, that may be true. I mean, I think the reality is we are where we are. So we have to do what we can to get it across the finish line. And I think some of the concerns you have are valid. You're not the only person who've mentioned them to me. And I think what we're focused on is ensuring that everything is done in a transparent fashion, that people understand how the tax dollars that the project's generating are being used to reinvest in the community, and how that can be a community benefit for now and for future generations. And that's really the hope here. These are areas that have been underinvested in for probably 40 years. And this is the first time that these dollars are going to be expended, and hopefully they're done in a way that makes sense to everybody.
Now, I want to ask a fun question. When are we going to see on one of those 3D models that we can sort of visually walk through? And I don't mean the ones that are CGI. I mean the old-fashioned ones where you could actually grab it and say, oh, this is cool. This looks like, beechwood or whatever.
That actually, we have some of those. Those kind of exist. It's just we haven't really brought them public. So I think in time, and I think over the next couple months, that'd be a fun thing for people to see, so they can really immerse themselves in the project, in the streetscape, understand the scale of the buildings, the public infrastructure, and then just get a sense of how amazing the atmosphere is going to be on the waterfront. With the space, with the park on the roof of the stadium, with all the energy of having the people gathering there, the hotel. I mean, there's just so many incredible aspects to the project. And I think, it's easy to lose sight of those things when you're in the midst of the negotiation or talking about all these other aspects. But that's the reason we're doing this, is because it's going to create an incredible transformative waterfront that I think will be a big benefit to Oakland residents.
Yeah, because season ticket holders, among others, would love to be able to put the eye down there and say, oh, that's where my seat's going to be. That's a nice view. You know what I mean? We've
had a couple of different views like that, but to actually get in there, I mean, it's almost like going in the metaverse, Zennie. So everybody have to have their glasses on or whatever. But it could be a cool way to kind of get a sense of, what's coming, which is going to be an
incredible metaverse. Hey, does that mean that you're considering approaching Facebook for naming rights agreement?
I can't comment on that, but conversations are always happening. That's all I can say.
Okay, so let's shift to Las Vegas in that context, because are we still on a dual path?
Parallel paths, yes. They're going on every day. There's negotiations and conversations happening in Southern Nevada at the same time as we're pursuing Oakland. I think one of the key things, and Major League Baseball has been super clear about this, is we need to bring this to a resolution this year as soon as possible. We have a final handful of sites in Las Vegas in the resort corridor that are pretty exciting, and we're in the process of negotiating. We've made offers on some of those parcels. We've done a lot of work on market feasibility, and we've been engaging the public elected officials on ways to work together in a partnership. So that's progressing as well, and there's momentum there. And I think at the end of the day, the key thing here is to bring this to a resolution and get the A's in a new building as soon as possible.
The magic question is, what's the timeline? What's the timetable to saying, okay, we were going to build here, if that's the case? Or is that tied in some kind of way with what happens in Oakland?
They're tied together, and we're working very closely with Major League Baseball to, keep everything on a parallel path, to ensure that progress is being made in both markets, and to also ensure that we get to a binding agreement in either market. I think there's been so many conversations and things of that nature. We have to get to the point where you can put a shovel in the ground in either location, and that's critically important for the A's future.
Now, I know you did a number of studies. What have you learned about Las Vegas that now that you can talk about that you didn't know before?
Yeah, so we commissioned CSL Legends out of Dallas, and they did an incredible market feasibility report on the Southern Nevada market, way more robust than we initially thought in terms of the local marketplace. I think you can see that with the Raiders and the Golden Knights and the Aviators. So I think the market itself can easily support a team if it's done well, if the stadium's in the right location. And that is really important because we needed to see that there would be support of sponsors, of season ticket holders, and things of that nature. So that was a big effort that occurred over the last 3 to 4 months. And it's good to have that positive input on the market.
Now, in terms of other criteria for the site, are you also looking at caliche? Because I remember when the Raiders were looking at land, where Allegiant Stadium is now was originally considered to be difficult because you had to really, literally dynamite that.
You do.
It has a price tag associated with it. Is that something else that you found as well? And also there's this groundwater one-off issue that tends to plague certain buildings around there?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with some local construction firms on costing in the Southern Nevada marketplace, Las Vegas. And the issues that you brought up, the groundwater, obviously the caliche soil, are really important to understanding the cost basis. And so those are things that are ongoing. I remember going out to the Aviator Stadium, Las Vegas Ballpark, and seeing when the explosions were happening because they had to bust up the soil because it's so hard, the rock basically. So I think that'll be something we'll have to contend with in that marketplace, and you just have to plan for it and do it appropriately.
So basically, in terms of scaling, though, you are further ahead in Oakland. You've got a design already. You've got the land and everything else. But in Las Vegas, are you finding that you're basically getting to where you would be faster? In other words, in terms of a design and land, because of the way Las Vegas jurisdictionally is laid out?
Yeah, it's just, things move faster there. There is no environmental impact report. It's just a different kind of business climate. So, we've gained a lot of momentum there over the last, several months. And now that we have a better sense of the market feasibility, we're focused on site selection and then obviously a partnership with the elected officials in the community. So that's progressing on its own pace with momentum. And at the same time, we're progressing in Oakland and hoping that we can continue to bring these votes forward in a positive way as soon as possible. Because, obviously we can't afford delays anywhere, really.
Begs two questions. First of all, are you working with a developer partner that may be a billionaire, A, and B, where are you in terms of using some type of public contribution, public money, be it tax increment finance or any type of combination financing?
That's still in the early stages in Las Vegas. We've been really focused on getting the final site, because the site actually would dictate some of the different financing options and underwriting ways you do it. So I think that'll shake out over the next couple months in a more concrete way. And then, we've talked to a variety of different partners, whether they're resorts or casino operators or individuals. But right now we're focused on being the lead on the project, and I think it'll continue in that fashion for the foreseeable future.
So what in the Las Vegas province you look at in terms of deadlines and timetables, where do you want to see, where you and Major League Baseball want to be when?
Well, I think this is a critical year. We have to bring, especially with, we only have a lease at the Coliseum through 2024. That facility is 10 years past its useful life. We're kind of hanging on there. And so we have to get resolution this year. We have to know what our direction is. We need to know if the city mothers and fathers in Oakland would approve a project that we proposed and spent 5 years on and tens of millions of dollars. And then by the same token, we need to know what options exist in Las Vegas and the meaningful timeline there. So that's what we're working on every day. We have a team of people working in both markets to establish that. We're working hand in hand with Major League Baseball. We keep them updated on a weekly basis, and we'll do what we can to advance it as soon as possible and keep everyone informed on where we are.
And regarding Oakland, coming back to Oakland, you have the Coliseum. Now you have the African American Sports Entertainment. I understand that you've been meeting with them.
We've been having like monthly meetings, updating. They've been updating us on their progress. I mean, they're in the middle of the negotiations with the city, so we're kind of seeing how that plays out. But from the beginning, we said, look, we're focused on the waterfront development and getting Howard approved. Our efforts at the Coliseum, while important, are now dictating on who would be the partner there. And so we're kind of waiting to see how that plays out. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't partner with that group in an effective way. And that's why we have a really solid and positive open line of communication.
And that will also, I believe, involve tax increment financing down there, because I understand there's a President Shang Tao who put on the agenda for the council an expanded citywide enhanced infrastructure financing district to somebody's behest. But
yes, I think so. No, that can be part of that. And also there's state dollars in, renovating and improving the BART station and connectivity. So I think there's a lot of aspects there that can be enhanced too, to ensure that the Coliseum remains a really vibrant and important part of East Oakland and the entire region.
And as we come to a close, I want to take a bit of it's not really a detour, because it's something I did reach out to you about, and it's high-speed rail.
Mm-hmm.
And as a person who worked on high-speed rail on behalf of Elihu Harris and the city of Oakland from 1997 to 1999, I'm still concerned that Oakland is not part of the route structure, right, and there's a top opportunity for a terminus. How about a terminus at Howard Terminal?
Well, I mean, one of the great things about our $12 billion project is that it becomes a lighthouse for other projects like high-speed rail, like other all these other things, because it creates a there that actually has economic activity, people living there, and the demand that comes with all that. So I think it's a great idea, and it's something that should be on people's agenda and radar, because it can have an enormous impact on the viability and thriving nature of the community.
Has anyone talked to you about high-speed rail and where everyone is on it? I know there's issues about financing it, but it occurred to me the other day they could take the entire route structure and make it one big tax increment financing zone, generate about $80 billion, and you got revenue to pay for your tracks. I
haven't heard anything about it, to be honest with you. Like, I heard more about it when I was working in San Jose, and we had a potential station near PayPal Park. But I haven't heard a ton about it. It's something that obviously I know a great amount of planning and investment has gone into, and we would love to see Oakland or the Howard area be included at some point. Yeah,
your friend Rod, I don't know if he's your friend, but Rod Dearden, he owes us a terminus.
Well, maybe it'll happen. Who knows? Who knows?
I deliberately said that to pick a fight. Go on, this is decades long, man. You know what they did? I'll tell you what they did. This is no joke. They said, you and I both know there are fewer people in the West Bay than the East Bay. Okay.
True.
They altered the lines for Fremont to make the West Bay look like it had more population than the East Bay. And they did this in the middle of a meeting and then with a straight face said, well, this is actually what it looks like. So that's the kind of game stuff that has gone on. If you're wondering why, hey, we don't have a terminus, I can talk to you days about it, but it needs to be at Howard Terminal. And I really hope you push that, provided, of course, the city gets its act together here, which would stop Las Vegas, which really is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to get a binding vote. You know, we're working very hard. We're spending millions of dollars a month in Oakland to achieve that. But at some point, we have to make sure it gets in front of the city council and we get the public policy decision that we're hoping that folks make.
Are you concerned that this is going to bleed over into the mayor's race? You have 3 council members running for mayor that are focused on.
I am concerned. And I think that's a big problem, to be honest with you, because I think if this gets into the election politics later in the year, I think it could derail the entire project. So I've been very clear with everyone involved that this really needs to get voted on ahead of that. And that's why the spring or by the summer at the absolute latest is critically important.
I think another something to concern is because we have a strong mayor form, we've had a tendency to hemorrhage staff because they thought maybe they weren't going to retain their jobs because the boss wasn't going to be, around. Have you had any discussions with anyone to assure, staff continuity through all this?
We have expressed that over and over again. Our legal team, who's worked on a lot of big projects in San Francisco, San Jose, LA, has had that same concern, Zennie, and we will continue to advocate for continuity with the city staff who have done an incredible job on getting the project shepherded to this point. And I would not want to lose any of those people. They're critically important.
Sounds like great progress overall. And, but is it tough emotionally when you're dealing with 2 cities? You've got Oakland, which you really have gone, all the way to the max to really make athletics a part of. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at Las Vegas, and there's nothing wrong with Las Vegas. It's just, it's not Oakland, Sure. Do you have a tough time with that sometimes?
Well, I think the focus is on bringing it to a resolution and making sure that, the process isn't the product, that we actually get to the point where we have shovels and we're breaking ground and things are being built and there's new affordable housing and new jobs and a new ballpark. And so we have to get beyond the conversation point, and collectively as a unit, we need to make a decision. And I think that's where we are.
But what you really want is this little venue at Howard Terminal where you can look out over at Oracle Park and basically thumb your nose, right? That's
well, I mean, once we open that thing, if we can pull the whole thing off, it's going to be better than Oracle Park. It's going to be a beauty. Best in the league.
Hey, them's fighting words. I love it. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, stick around in the background. Thank you for your time, sir.
Awesome. Take care, my friend.
All right, cool. Stick around.